Hey kids, my name is Gory Irv. I asked my brother Ghoulie if he would take a little break from the program. He'll be back, but I'm here to give you some of that, whatchamacallit, trivia, because we've only got one decade left to talk about. Look, the 2000s didn't seem like they were going to go so well for scary movies, despite us starting out in the year 2000 with a really gory and funny version of American Psycho. It starred Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman and a really strange Willem Dafoe as a cop looking into his mass murders. But who thought that a sequel to the Blair Witch Project was going to be near as scary as the original? Well, you got Joseph Berlinger, the director of those Paradise Lost documentaries, and maybe you got something, right? No one was going to fall for that found footage thing again, so they came up with something else. They called it The Secret of, yeah, are you shaking yet? The guys who made the original Blair Witch didn't like the movie. Berlinger didn't like the movie, especially because the suits decided it was too, what's that word? Ambiguous. So they had new scenes filmed that spelled it all out for you. Enough said. Shadow of the Vampire sure was a terrific pick about the making of Nosferatu, but it was a lot more funny and strange than scary. John Malkovich as F.W. Murnau, and hey, here's Willem Dafoe again as Max Schreck. How perfect is that? You probably knew that Udo Kier, who played Murnau's costume designer and art director, is that same funky dude who was Dracula for Andy Warhol in the 70s. Maybe you didn't know that Shadow was produced by Nicolas Cage's company. Yeah, that guy. The nephew of Francis Coppola, who made his own Dracula movie in '92, which also happened to star Princess Bride pretty boy Cary Elwes, who plays Murnau's cameraman. Kids avoided going to their final destination. The director of RoboCop made his own Invisible Man movie, and people started paying attention to Vin Diesel when he went pitch black. But it wasn't until 2001 when things got really, really scary. Talk about scary. A lot of people said it was like watching a movie, but it was a lot more frightening than the scariest horror movie. And the scares didn't end there, and the lights haven't come back up, have they? Before those towers were destroyed, monster kids might have known them best because King Kong climbed them in '76, because Snake Plissken landed on them in '81. Not anymore. Thousands of real people died, and horror movies eventually did what they always do. They reflected the time. Sure, Phantasm director Don Coscarelli might have gotten us laughing a little again with Bubba Hotep, and rocker Rob Zombie stacked a colorful house of 1,000 corpses. Charles Manson even made a comeback in 2003 when indie movie maker Jim Van Bebber finally finished The Manson Family, a demented independent movie that saw the director stripping naked himself on set so the unpaid cast would feel okay during the graphic sex scenes. But we still hadn't seen a horror movie about the times. There were some pretty strong dramatic movies about the September 11th attacks, but we hadn't yet seen our Godzilla. Japan waited 9 years to exorcise the demons of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on screen when Gojira came out in 1954. But America waited only 7 years to release a monster movie all about 9/11. And when they did, they called it Cloverfield. The build-up to producer J.J. Abrams' home movie-style frightener about a Kong-sized critter loose in New York was shrouded in secrecy, and the MPAA even had to approve them putting out the now famous trailer without any title at all. The shaky cam style from Blair Witch and Cloverfield has reared its head again and again and was used by no less than George Romero himself when it came time to uncover The Diary of the Dead in 2007. But there were some other real-life shocks that wound up being even more influential. Remember this place? Well, in 2004, we also saw Saw, and a new genre got started. We called it torture porn. And then we saw again and again and again and again and again. But it was 2005 and Eli Roth's Hostel that really upped the ante, telling the disturbing story of horny young guys backpacking their way across Eastern Europe. They take some bad advice and visit a hostel full of hot babes and really nasty hospitality. Roth said the movie was based on true events, but when he tried to get in touch with whatever shady characters might actually be involved in the sorts of situations he put in the movie, he was told he was putting his own life in danger. Hostel offended some people so much, Roth offered an actual apology to the Icelandic Minister of Culture because he was worried one single character in this story might hurt the whole country's reputation. One thing's for sure, if you're hungry for a horror film that's slick, sick, and even funny in spots, you won't be sorry you watched Roth's super gross shot of Grand Guignol. The 2000s had their fair share of crackpots selling the public heaps of paranoid fantasies. So it's no surprise at all that we got a movie like William Friedkin's creepy opus Bug, with Ashley Judd as a pretty Oklahoma waitress hiding out in a dingy hotel room. Her ex, played by Harry Connick Jr., is a real jerk to her. But that's nothing compared to what happens when her new friend starts seeing creepy crawlies everywhere. In keeping with the kind of curses that seem to follow the director of The Exorcist everywhere, the cast and crew of Bug actually had to deal with real bedbugs they found in their hotel room during the shoot. And if the 2000s started with a double dose of Willem Dafoe, they weren't going to end until Jesus came back with Antichrist in 2009. You better have a serious talk with your date before watching this one. It doesn't get any darker than this story of a couple coping very badly with the death of their young child. Lars von Trier said he wrote the movie because he was depressed, and the ecumenical jury at Cannes got so angry at the results they gave it their first ever anti-award, a move that really ticked off the Cannes director. You'd think in France they would have known better. Ghoulie Irv is getting restless. He wants to come back and tell you all about the movies we didn't get to cover, like the remake of Willard with creepy Crispin Glover, the crazy story behind the two versions of Exorcist 4 that nobody seemed to like, Dario Argento's The Mother of Tears, and House of the Wolfman, a tribute to the golden oldies that co-starred Ron Chaney. Yep, Ron Chaney, the grandson of Lon Chaney Jr. So don't worry, monster kids. Soon your ghoulie pal will return for frights and more fun. Geez, look at that guy. He talks so much about those movies from so long ago. But we still love them, don't we? Yeah, we do. Even though they don't much seem like real life today. You know why? Because sometimes, like they said in that movie George Clooney made about the news, the terror is right here in this room. Sometimes real life is scary enough. Good night and good luck.